Hey guys, welcome to the all-new Subaru WRX. This is obviously a very big deal, particularly for driving enthusiasts, because the WRX nameplate has always been the go-to option for many fans, including rally fans, rally sprint fans, club racers, and just driving enthusiasts that want a practical car that's quick on the road, but also can be used for motorsport if needed. For me, judging this new model is all about where your expectations lie. I drove the new model during the media launch event and my expectations were very high, and I came out a little bit underwhelmed compared with those high expectations. Why did I put the expectations so high? I don't know actually. I think it's just the nameplate, the WRX nameplate. It's got decades of experience behind it, so it should theoretically have the most experience in building this style of car. And now that it's 2022, there are a number of really good hot hatches. I know this is not technically a hot hatch, but it is priced like a hot hatch, and it does kind of offer the same qualities as a hot hatch in that it's fast, but also practical. And compared with some of those new hot hatches, this doesn't come up quite as well. Just in terms of some of the criteria. So if you just look at specs on paper, things like that, economy on paper, the newer hot hatches are superior to this. But after spending a week with the car now, I have changed my expectations and started to understand a bit more about what this car is about. And it has grown on me more than the original test drive, definitely. Just firstly though, we'll go over the design very quickly. So this is based on the new, well it's not new, it's a Subaru global platform. Subaru likes to boast that it is something special. I don't think it is. It's about 5 years old now, this platform, but this does happen a lot in the car industry. So a manufacturer will come out with a brand new platform, latest and greatest technologies, safety, all that kind of thing, and it will last 5 to sometimes 10 years. So this platform first debuted with the Impreza back in 2017 in Australia anyway. What it does mean though is it's stiffer, stronger, safer and larger than before. And it helps welcome this new design. So new look headlights at the front, some fake grills at the bottom there. I get really annoyed with fake grills. I understand that it's all about aerodynamics, pedestrian safety and all that kind of thing. But I don't know, can't you put something else there that doesn't look like a vent? Maybe make the spotlight cluster a bit bigger there or something. I don't know, but to me it just puts me off a little bit. Other than that, it does look very good. It certainly looks better than it does on paper or on screen. When I first saw this car unveiled, I was a bit, that's a bit weird looking, especially with the plastic molding around the wheel arches and along the bottom. But now that I've sort of come to learn a bit more about what this car is about, it kind of makes sense. Why? I think it's all about SUVs. So crossovers, SUVs, these are the most popular, the go-to model that everyone wants. So for Subaru to come out with a sedan, it's kind of a bit risky, because if everyone's buying SUVs, it's risky to launch a sedan because you don't know if it's going to be very popular. I have spoken to a Subaru engineer and he pointed out that the plastic is actually patterned a bit like a golf ball, and that's for aerodynamic purpose. So they haven't just whacked on this black cladding to make it look like an SUV to try and fool some buyers. There is actual aerodynamic benefit there. You might also notice these quite aggressive little vents behind the wheels there. They also help with aerodynamics. And then at the back, you'll see this little plastic piece there. I asked an engineer also, why is that there and not another vent? If that vent is so good, why wouldn't you put it on the back? He told me that basically when the suspension compresses at the front, all the air has to escape somewhere. So it escapes through there. But at the back, there's not as much of a problem. And he also said that these vents here do actually function a bit the same way. But the main reason is because in some markets, like I think America, they have to have a reflector there. Whereas in Australia, it's not necessary or whatever. That's not a legal thing. So they've just put a plastic piece in there to conceal it and make it look a little bit like the front. Around at the back, you've got the trademark quad outlet exhausts. I think these are a bit ambitious. Usually these were applied to traditionally applied to the sort of later model STIs. So for this, sort of base model WRX, I don't think it needs quad outlet exhausts, especially when you start it up and have a listen to it, and it's so quiet, yet you've got these aggressive exhausts at the back. And then up top you've got a little lip spoiler, which is quite nice, and then the fashionable, well, it's not a full width tail light, but it's kind of got the perception of a full width tail light with that trim piece that connects the two outer pieces. I do like these tail lights. They're kind of like crystal, and they're all like, it kind of looks like it's smashed and it's all like shattered, but it's actually really intricate detail there. But coming back to that SUV like character, we have to remember that the WRX was born as a rally car, so it's kind of already, it was always, a bit off-roady. So having those black plastic guards and things like that, I think it does actually separate it from the rest of the sort of hot hatches that are on the market. And again, this is not a hot hatch. It's different, although it's priced quite similar. Performance is quite similar as well. There is decent ground clearance here, so at the front end you don't have to worry about the nose scrubbing out. Again, compared with hot hatches or like-minded hot hatches, you can actually take it on the gravel and things, and it won't smash any spoilers off or anything like that. So that is a quality in itself, an attractive quality, I mean. So you can take this onto a farm or something like that, and you don't have to worry about it too much. And of course it has all-wheel drive, which most of the hot hatches do not have. But overall, I think it does look quite good, and it suits the modern market. So it appeals to SUV type buyers, but it also carries through some WRX tradition in that it's muscly and aggressive. In fact, it does look a lot more aggressive in the metal compared with on paper. Like even these bonnet scoop contours here that create the bonnet scoop, you don't really notice those on the screen. You just think it's just a bonnet scoop like the old model, but it's got this carving of the bonnet, and the muscular wheel arches as well. They really poke out, whereas you don't really see that on the screen or on paper. And that's what the WRX has kind of always been about. A bit of attitude. There's a lot going on, and it certainly stands out from other like-minded vehicles on the market at the moment. Another big change for the new model is, of course, the new 2.4 turbo petrol flat engine. So this is the FA24. It's got direct injection and all that kind of thing. It's about 7% lighter than the previous 2-litre engine, so that helps to keep the centre of gravity down. Also keeps to help overall weight down. But disappointingly, the power and torque outputs are not, how can we say, not as impressive as they should be. Let's check out the interior. I'll just close the door because it's quite a cold and windy day today, and I do have a bit of a cold, as you may have noticed, but I'm trying to hide it. But yeah, there's a lot of cubby holes, shelves, and little pockets everywhere. I love this little rubber lined mat at the front here. I love it when they put rubber lining there, because you can put your phone there and it doesn't move around, or put whatever you want there and doesn't move around. That's just plastic there, but these cup holders have got sort of rubbery lining at the bottom. Yeah, there are some elements in here that show signs of age, such as no wireless phone charger, and of course a manual transmission. And then under the center console is a CD changer, which is, I don't know, it's a bit nostalgic. It's probably trying to appeal to the older generation WRX owners and things, to try and pull some of them back, whereas the big screen obviously attracts the newer generation market. You don't have a digital instrument cluster, which I don't mind. I like mechanical dials, as you've probably heard me say before. You do have a little screen in the middle there that does have different menus and so on. So you've got a boost gauge, which is pretty cool. My average consumption, I'll just tell you now before we go for a drive, has been 10.2, and that's included some performance testing, actually a lot of performance testing, but also a lot of highway driving and just cruising around. I think I've done 690 kilometers in the week that I've had the car. So that hasn't been, 690 kilometers of performance testing. That's a lot of highway trips and things. I don't think 10.2 is very impressive at all. I've done lower than that in, well, for example, the Hyundai i30N hot hatch, similar power and actually slightly better performance, and it uses about 8.5 or something like that in the real world too. So that I think is a bit higher. This is all-wheel drive though, so we do have to keep that in mind. As for this new touchscreen, look, I think it's okay. I don't think it's anything awesome. I do like that it's large. Some of the graphics and things are pretty cool, but it is a little bit crude in that some of the menus and things have got a bit like the dead end, like this sort of car menu gives you only a few different functions to play around with. This one, being the manual, doesn't have the full suite of eyesight technology and adaptive cruise control and all that sort of thing. It does have cruise control, but it's not adaptive. But yeah, you'd normally have another list of, or a more extensive list of different driving assistance features there if you go for the automatic version. But yeah, you've got everything here. You've got digital radio, you can connect your phone and all that sort of thing. Down the bottom is your climate control. So I don't know, I like having climate control on a separate panel, but I understand that touch screens are becoming all the craze these days, so they try to package everything in there, minimize the buttons. I do like having the temp control on external off the screen there, so you can just drive along, change the temperature. You don't have to worry about diving into some menu and playing around there. But you do have to go into here if you want to change the direction of the climate and so on. Pretty good steering wheel. It's a bit chunky for my liking, but it's overall it's pretty good for a modern times, I guess. And it's got some of the important buttons on there, some of the important functions, and your little arrows down the bottom here to change the different menus in the little instrument cluster screen. Yeah, some people are probably going to be disappointed that that's not digital. Others are not going to be disappointed, I guess. What's the difference? I guess a digital screen is slightly lighter, certainly compared with the older instrument clusters that had, a mechanical cable going down to the gearbox. I don't think they do that anymore. It's all digital, like as in it plugs in and uses wheel sensors and all that sort of stuff. But I'm still guessing it would be a slightly bit lighter, being digital, if it's just a digital screen, as opposed to, these have to have little motors that turn the needles and things. But it's going to be so minute, I don't think it's beneficial at all. But yeah, I just like having the mechanical dial because you can see the needle there moving rather than just having this digital screen. We spend so much time on screens these days, we don't need another one. What else we got here? You can get the view going here. So this has got these side view cameras, so you can watch to damage your wheels and so on when you're parking. I don't think it has surround view cameras though. I have tried to look that up. It's just got the rear view camera. Maybe with the upper spec models you can get a surround view camera, but it is good to have the button there because you can be parking forwards and it doesn't actually activate the camera. So you just hit that and then you've got a bit of a view. It is pretty small, but at least you can see where the gutter is. Overall cabin size and passenger comfort is really good. Great visibility as usual with especially the later model WRXs. It's got the little windows there so you can see through and around the side mirror. Definitely feels like I'm sitting quite high, even though I'm not. I'm sitting quite low. I've got the seat maxed out down to the lowest setting, but you've got this good view straight down. I don't know, they've really crafted the dashboard and the bonnet really well to make it feel like, well, it does. It just opens up the view. You can see all around you very, very easily. And yeah, good driving position. I feel very comfortable. The pedals are aligned. Everything's where it should be. The gearbox, the gear lever is right there. Yeah, you can definitely get a nice, good driving position. And then in the back is probably one of the big benefits of the WRX compared with some of those modern hot hatches is just the room. You've got loads of leg room. Even headroom's really good. They've got this cutaway here where the sunroof goes into. But yeah, my head's not touching that. I think even if you were a fair bit taller than me, you probably still wouldn't be touching. But yeah, the leg room is probably the best thing, and even the width. It's quite a wide car for this class of car anyway. It's a bit disappointing to see that there are no climate vents in the back of the center console or on the pillar, like some models have the climate vents there. Although most cars have vents underneath the front seats. A lot of people do forget about those, but yeah, if you set it to the floor setting, you do get a lot of venting through there anyway. But even so, many of the competitors have the vents in the back of the console here, so it is disappointing on that. If you do a straight comparison, it's disappointing that there's no vents there. It does come with heated seats on the outer seats here, which is pretty sort of exclusive, I guess, to this market. And you've got a couple of USB ports, as well as a flip down armrest and twin cup holders there. But yeah, this is a definitely, you could use this as a family car for sure. 2 adults on the sides. I'm 170 centimeters, so I'm pretty short. I guess I'm not a perfect example of the car's potential, but as I said, even if I was a bit taller, I think I'd still be fine, and certainly better than some of the competitors. The middle seat is a bit tighter due to the big tunnel there, because of course this does have a drive shaft that goes to the rear wheels. The only thing I don't like about the back is these headrests. They're too low. It sort of hits the back of my neck. You can raise them up as I just did, but yeah, I don't know, it's just a bit weird. Again, I think it's all about the visibility. So you might see that parcel shelf, I'll try and level my camera, sorry, but that parcel shelf does actually slope down, so it kind of gives you a good view out the back, or helps to give a good view out the back, whereas if that parcel shelf was level, it would close up that gap even more. So they've tried their best. There's a Harman Kardon speaker I've just seen there at the back, subwoofer. So it's the stereo is quite good. Subaru stereos, I mean, my parents have got an Outback from 2006, I think they have. Brand new, they've had it since. So quite an upper spec model, 3-litre version, and the stereo is just pathetic. It really is poor stereo quality. It might even be 4 speakers or maybe 6, I don't know, but yeah, I've just always known Subaru stereos to be pretty bad. But yeah, now that I've seen that speaker at the back there, I didn't notice that before, I can understand why it's quite good. Again, overall practicality is really good. I think that's the main trait of this car, the key attraction to this style of car over some of the competitors, is just the sheer practicality, and that's kind of what the WRX has always been about. It's just a basic sedan, quite big for its class, practical, easy to live with. You don't have to worry about getting in and out like in small doorways or anything like that. It's slightly raised off the ground, so you don't have to step right up to get out like some of the lower hot hatches. Yeah, it's a very practical minded car. And then in the back you've got a decent boot. This test car comes with this plastic matting. Subaru always do really good with that sort of thing. It's fully shaped, although it is split there. I think that's because that's to access the oh no, it actually comes up too. Why have they split that there then? I don't understand that. I was going to say to get the spare wheel, it's a space saver spare, 205, a slightly narrower steel wheel as well, compared with the alloy wheels. But yeah, I don't know why that's split. But anyway, that's very durable. You can chuck things on there. You don't have to worry about a bit of leakage or anything like that, liquids, and it sort of all gets contained. Let's go for a drive now and I'll try and show you how it goes. One area that I can tell where they've tried to appeal to the existing and past, sorry about the gravel there's a bit of rocks and stuff on the road. Yeah, tried to appeal to the existing and past generation WRX owners is the fact that there are no driving modes to choose from. There's nothing in here, you just get in and drive. It is kind of refreshing in this day and age because a lot of cars do have a multitude of different settings and parameters that you can pick from. So it is kind of refreshing to just be able to get in and drive and know that you're given everything that the car has to offer straight away. It doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about being in the wrong mode. In saying that, I think adaptive dampers would be really nice. I'm not completely agreeable with this suspension tune. This is a bit of a rough road, but I drove in the city the other day where there's these concrete roads with little connections everywhere, and it was just crashing and banging on every single connection. Not necessarily firm, but just it's like the rebound setting is too high or something. I don't know. I'm not a vehicle engineer, but it seems to crash a lot. It's not necessarily bone jarring, like the stiffness doesn't come through to your spine, but it just crashes a lot, which is a little bit disappointing. Maybe it is better on the dirt where this car was born. I don't know, but it's definitely very sporty. It feels very agile. It just wants to turn and dart around, and that's obviously a great thing, and in tune with what the WRX has always been about. The steering is very mechanical feeling. It's direct, but it's not too touchy. You always know what the front wheels are doing. You get a lot of feedback. But yeah, it definitely has that mechanical feel to it. It's easy to place on the road as well. It doesn't feel too big or anything like that. Yeah, it feels nice. It feels like a driver's car. You can tell that this is a driver's car and not a conventional hatchback that just happens to have a turbo engine and all that sort of stuff. It's definitely a driver's car all the way through. So what's it like when you give it a bit of a fang? Sorry, I'll just put that sun visor down. I hope it doesn't block your view much, but so that's flat to the floor in third. There's a little bit of it's not lag, but it just doesn't have quite enough torque, in my opinion. If you bring it down to second gear, floor, it does go really well. It's just the torque, I think it lacks a little bit. It's actually pretty interesting because this engine, 2.4 litre, produces the same torque, 350 Newton meters, compared with the old 2 litre engine. I mean, where that's achieved is slightly different. I can't remember the exact rev figures. I'll flash them up on the screen now. But so it's available a bit wider rev range. But why doesn't it have more torque if it's got 400 cc's of extra combustion capacity? It doesn't quite make sense to me. It would be very interesting though to see what this new model produces on the dyno. So at the wheels, torque at the wheels. I'm just going to pull over for a minute and quickly explain the difference for you for that. So basically you have power at the engine. So that's what you see in the brochures, and it's basically measured at the last, easiest way to put it, last rotating point of the engine. So the crankshaft or the flywheel, before it goes into the gearbox and things like that. So the power at the engine is always going to be higher than power at the wheels. So when you measure power at the wheels, it takes energy to send the power through the drive shafts and things like that, through the tires even. That saps some of the power. So you're always going to have, so this engine, say an engine's got 200 kilowatts, it's probably going to be about 150 kilowatts at the wheels. With torque though, that's completely the opposite. So you have torque at the engine, so what the engine produces in terms of torque, but then you have mechanical advantage of gearing, which can multiply, it almost always multiplies torque, because you know your diff ratio is never 1 to 1. It's always going to be 3 in between 3 and 4 to 1. So I'd love to know what torque figure this car produces at the wheels compared with the old model. I think it would be much higher, because I feel like when you're driving this car, there's a lot of mechanical torque, but it's not as much coming from the engine. It's more about coming from the gearing. Mainly the differential ratio. Usually on the dyno you test it in 4th gear, which is a straight through drive, so you don't have any interference of the gearbox or anything like that. No, not interference, but you know, influence from the gearbox's point of view, and you just have the straight through drive. So it's then purely on the differential to provide you with that torque at the wheels. But yeah, it does feel like there's a lot of mechanical torque rather than engine torque. Is that a bad thing? Well, it's not fake, it's just a way of doing it, I guess, and it probably does help with economy, but it does mean you're changing gears quite a lot. again though, I think it deserves to have, well, if this was my perfect car, you know, I'd have a gearbox that's slightly longer gearing and just have the engine produce, you know, 420 Newton meters. I mean, Mazda's 2.5 turbo produces 420, and a lot of the 2-litre turbos are now producing 400 Newton meters, whereas 350 Newton meters from a 2-litre turbo was kind of the default. You know, 5 years ago, they produced, you know, 180, roughly 180 kilowatts and 350 Newton meters. So I don't know why why Subaru has managed to extract a relatively low figure from such a brand new and large capacity 4-cylinder engine. It still goes really well though, so that's the main thing, and it feels like it goes really well. It's very punchy and a sort of aggressive driving style. It's especially good when you're driving up hills, actually, because it just really rips around uphill corners. That's flat. There's no real understeer there, a little bit of push understeer, I suppose. But yeah, overall, it definitely feels sporty and fast, and that's kind of the main thing. It doesn't really matter how fast you're actually going. As it feels fast, it probably is fast. I have done some 0 to 100 tests with this car, quite a lot actually. I really wanted to see it achieve the official claim of 6 seconds, so I think I did about 12 tests or something like that. I did eventually do it. I think I did 5.9 something. We'll have the full video of that, and I'll show a few different demonstrations as well, a few different styles of takeoffs. But just, yeah, or as always, keep in mind the video is just a video. I just put the camera on there, do the runs, do a demonstration of runs, sorry, separately to the V-Box. So the V-Box, I concentrate a bit more. The camera's not rolling, not because of any other reason, that I don't want to have to sync up the perfect video footage with the perfect run. Although that would be ideal, it'll just take too long for me to edit all together. So I'll just show the best run on video, or the best couple of runs on video, and then the times at the end of the video are always the best result that we achieved on the day. But yeah, so 5.9, it's not super quick. I mean, the i30 hatch we've achieved quicker than that, or roughly the same time in the manual, I think, and that's front wheel drive. So yeah, it should be much quicker than that, in my opinion anyway. But yeah, a lot of G-force from this sort of high torque feeling from the gearing, and then obviously 4-wheel drive. Yeah, definitely has a lot of G-force pulling you around the corners. You may have noticed just then I hit the red line, and that's another thing too. It does reach 6,000 RPM, which is not that high really for a performance car. It hits the red line quite quickly, and again, it's that short gearing that it just change gear. Whereas I think in this modern age, we want something that's a little bit longer gearing. I'll get on the highway in a second and show you how it cruises. But yeah, overall I think I would prefer slightly longer gearing and a bit more torque from the engine. To achieve that 5.9 second time, I'll just pull over for a second. To achieve that 5.9 second time though, I tried all different methods, including revving it up to 6,000 RPM, or basically bouncing it off the rev limiter, then releasing the clutch rapidly, so not dropping the clutch, although I did try that as well. Don't tell Subaru. It's sort of just, it chirped the wheels a little bit, spun the wheels a little bit, and then bogged down. So I don't think that's the best way to do it. Well, it wasn't the best way to do it. It certainly wasn't the quickest, didn't produce the quickest time. But also just revving it right up and then slowly releasing the clutch. That also, it tended to sort of, it took off really quickly out of the gate, but then it bogged down after that. I feel like it just needed a little bit of sort of go time sort of thing before it you needed to change gear. So anyway, the best result I got was from revving it to 5,000 RPM and then slowly but fast releasing the clutch without dumping the clutch, and then that way it sort of engaged the gear, had enough time to engage the gear, catapult you off the line, and then you're ready pretty much straight into second gear straight away, and that produced the quickest result. I'll try and do that now. We're on a bit of a hill, but give you a bit of an idea. I have to use the handbrake. So 5,000 RPM. So yeah, it definitely propels off the line really well. It's got four-wheel drive grip, which a lot of the obviously the front-wheel drive hot hatches don't have that sort of capability straight out of the gate. That was with the traction control still turned on, by the way, so you might have seen the light flashing there. I wouldn't advise leaving traction control on. I mean, you're obviously better off doing this on the track, but especially in all-wheel drive cars, leaving traction on, it ends up being two opposing forces. So you've got the engine sending power to the wheels, trying to tell it to spin this way, but then you've got the brakes coming on saying, no, I basically want you to spin the other, well, not spin the other way, but stop the spinning. So you've got force coming this way, force coming that way. It's just going to be a recipe for some sort of breakage, really. So I always turn it off when we're doing proper performance testing on a private road, not just for the sake of saving the drivetrain, but you tend to get better performance from the without it anyway, unless it's a really a rear-wheel drive car or a front-wheel drive car that's got bad traction issues, where it needs to rely on traction control to get off the line. So I said earlier that I better understand this car after driving it for a week. What do I mean by that? This is a car that you can just jump in and drive, thrash it around. You don't have to worry about various driver settings and all that sort of stuff. You don't have to worry about as much about ground clearance or the conditions even. You can drive this in the wet safely and drive it fast safely as well, because it's got all-wheel drive. And it's just that kind of car. You just jump in and just drive it, and that's what the WRX has kind of always been about. And that's a good quality compared with some of the hot hatches that are a bit more, I don't know, you just need to spend a bit more time with them, and a bit more focused, and it's a bit more tiring, I guess is the good word to use. Some of the hot hatches are a bit tiring to drive because they're very driver intensive or driver involved, whereas this is not. Anybody could drive this car and have a bit of fun with it. You can play it around. Suspension's not too firm or anything like that. It's not too sensitive to any of your inputs, and that's probably the best thing about this car. It's just a great all-rounder. It's not, doesn't have the performance that I was hoping for. It should be a bit quicker, for example, but I think they could have done better with this engine in terms of even the on-paper specs. It's just not as impressive, and then the fuel economy is quite high as well. I think actually the emissions are still quite high, the official emissions rating, compared with some of the hot hatches, even the four-wheel drive hot hatches that are out. But yeah, you're getting a lot more than just that as well. You're getting something that's very practical, lots of space inside and so on. Easy to heel and tow as well. Good pedal placement, as I said before. Keep heaps of speed around the corner. Carry heaps of speed around the corner. Bounce off the red limit again. But yeah, it's very predictable. It feels safe. It feels like it knows what you want to do. There's no surprises. The brakes are holding up as well. I mean, I'm not on a racetrack, but the brake calipers and brake discs don't look very sort of appealing, I guess, from a performance perspective, but they do hold up pretty well for heated driving in the mountains and so on. Out on more of a country road, it's definitely more comfortable than some of the more hardcore hot hatches out there. It's just that initial suspension impact that I'm not quite satisfied with. Like, I'll hit a couple of these reflectors. There's no cars coming. Like, it really crashes on the little bumps. Big bumps, it's not so bad. It actually, it's quite resolved and stays very composed when you hit bigger bumps. But it's just those little ones that make it somewhat uncomfortable. The noise of them. I mean, I'm not feeling much of it through my back, as I said, but it's a little bit off-putting. And then as you approach 100 kilometers an hour, so I'll put it in 6th gear for you. 100 kilometers an hour is about 2,500 RPM. The automatic version obviously is going to be beneficial in that area. If you're doing a lot of highway driving, the automatic is going to save you fuel. But yeah, the automatic is pretty much a no-go zone for me. I don't like CVTs at all, especially for performance cars, and even double especially for performance icons like the WRX. Very disappointing to see a CVT in the WRX, in my opinion. It feels like this car would have been great about 5 years ago or more. Like, it's kind of behind its time already, even though it's a brand new model, in my opinion. Again, I just feel like they could have done better in terms of performance. They could have done better with economy, and you know, the chassis is not anything really to write home about. It doesn't stand out, in my opinion. And then some of the features and things, again, no drive modes or anything like that. It does detract from its modern sort of attractability. You know, some of these functions and things that are very tempting for some of the younger generation buyers. So for Subaru not to include them, it's a big move. Good things about the car though: practicality is excellent, as always with Subarus. Build quality is also very good. I love everything, the way it's built. It feels solid and sturdy, and it feels like it's going to last forever. And yeah, the passenger space and all that sort of thing is really, really good for this size vehicle. We'll go into some of the more finer details in the written review coming to the website soon, and of course we'll put together our 0 to 100 video. I'll make sure to include plenty of runs there, demonstration runs, just to show you how hard we tried to just to achieve that 5.9 second time, but it can do it, so that's a good thing. In the meantime, thanks for watching.